Welcome to the Career Ready Podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all the things you need to be career ready with the Career Services Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca Harrington. In today's bonus episode, I'm going to interview Pierre Michiels to get a better understanding of his story. Welcome, Pierre.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm excited to be here on this side. It's a little different from the normal episodes.
Exactly. Yeah, we're hoping by interviewing each other and getting some information on our career paths that hopefully our listeners will find some connections and inspiration for their own. So Pierre, to get started, I want to put you on the spot, just like Michelle put me on the spot last time, and ask for your elevator pitch. Of course, as we know, elevator pitch should always change with the setting. So I'm going to ask for two different ones. So first, can you share a personal elevator pitch about you and your non-job related interests?
All right. Well, you already know my name, so I'm not going to include that in the elevator pitch. The introduction's been done. But so my elevator pitch. I'm a follower of Christ, and I believe through that I'm here to serve others. I'm lucky enough to have a wonderful wife to do that with. Together, we have two fur babies, a cat and a dog. For the Holland Code, so I want to keep it a little professional here because that's who I am. I am a realistic social artistic, or an RSA. That social component really does come through my desire to serve and help people. I enjoy volunteering and have a desire to engage with others, especially those that are underserved, specifically those with disabilities. From a realistic standpoint, I like to work hands-on, just doing different projects, whatever I can do to create something or put something together. I'm at home with that. Artistically, I'm not much of a creator, but I do appreciate many art forms, especially movies. I have a deep appreciation for the history of movies. I love the classics. And to end here, I'll answer a question I get asked a lot. I am not French, despite my name. And there's a whole story behind that, but we could save that for another time.
Now, do I remember this? Are you Belgian? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We don't have to go further than that, but that's what I kind of remember.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my maiden name is Rivers, which is French Canadian. So it doesn't sound quite as French as Michiels. And Pierre, I think, is really what puts it.
Well, it's the quintessential French name, right? Whenever there's a French stereotype here in America, the person's named Pierre. So automatically they think I'm French.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing your Holland Code. And I can think about you as a coworker and as a professional and how that absolutely fits for you. And I think it's a good way of showing how that realistic, we often stereotype that as someone that works with their hands. So they're outside or they're, woodworker, which it can be those things, but it doesn't have to be those things. There's other ways to get into the details of things and work with them that isn't necessarily those traditional career paths.
Yeah, it's about finding those appropriate outlets for these in work or in your own personal interests.
Absolutely. So, all right. Now, can you give me your professional elevator pitch that you would use if you were out representing yourself as a career specialist?
Yeah, so knew this was coming, so I thought about it, and I've been asked a lot through my work, how old are you? I think I get this because I do have a younger face, and we get our community members coming in, and they're like, how can I trust this kid? All right. So I'm approaching this elevator pitch from that perspective. I've just been asked, how old are you? And I'm going to add in a little bit more just for our listeners. But this would be my response in that situation.
Okay.
I'm old enough to have 2 degrees related to my work, a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in vocational rehabilitation counseling, which is career counseling specifically for those with disabilities. In addition to my degree, I am a CRC, or a certified rehabilitation counselor. I've also completed a few practicum trainings and internship related to vocational counseling. In my big internship at College of DuPage, I did split time between counseling and advising and the Center for Access and Accommodations. After completing my master's, I've worked in the high school system for 4 years supporting students with disabilities transition to the workforce. And for the last 5+ years, I've been here with the Career Service Center at College DuPage, and I'm happy to help anyone be career ready.
Very nice. Very nice. That is a hard question to answer. And I think that's a nice way of answering it where, no one needs to share personal information, but answering it with your professional qualifications, I think is a nice way of doing that.
Yeah, because kind of going back to the searching out the purpose of an interview question, right? There's something really behind it that they're looking for. They don't care how old I am. They're like, how can you be helping me? So to talk about
Right.
those qualifications is where the real value is at.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of thinking about it. So let's get into our kind of heart of the questions here. So, based on a few episodes ago, you interviewed Jelly about getting involved with student life. So, tell me about and our listeners about your high school and or college involvement and how that influenced your career path.
Yeah, so I'll kind of start early in high school, and I'll say my lack of involvement stunted my path because I really wasn't involved in high school. I like to think that I'm a good student because of my grades, but I needed a lot of extra time to work as a student. So it limited me being involved on campus. I was, just focused academically. I took a lot of accounting classes. So there's that component that kind of helped move me forward as I got that bachelor's in business administration. Outside of school, I was involved with my family, helping take care of my grandpa who had a stroke long ago and just being there involved with him. And then eventually, as I was moved forward, and we'll dive deeper into how I got to this point, I got into my master's program. And then this is where I really got involved as a student. And I became the president of the NIU RCSA, or the Rehabilitation Counseling Student Association. And that really let me, engage with my classmates, engage with other professionals. But also through that master's program, it was forced job shadowing. Through the program, we went out to view different sites, but then I just did a whole bunch more of that, right? So I got really involved as a student through the club, but also just engaging with professionals and networking with other professionals and just really learning what those options are out there. So early on, not being that involved, kind of being a little lost, and then eventually finding my path and then getting involved, which has really helped my career just kind of move forward very smoothly once I gained that direction.
Yeah, I think that it is difficult when, a lot of students we see talk about, being just focused on school and not, doing those things outside of school. And that can be difficult, to move your career forward if you don't have some of those involvements. So I think it's worth trying to find the time if you can. But I'm, sounds like you certainly did do a lot, even if it wasn't being in student clubs. That I'm sure, working with someone who had a stroke, I'm sure definitely influenced how you work as a rehabilitation counselor.
Yeah, so from that student perspective, what I would encourage students now is to find that balance. You're paying for the school, you want to make sure you're getting the good grades, but now that I can look at it in hindsight, being involved in my master's program, so the hardest time, most pressure as a student was when I was most involved, and that really helped me learn. Being involved in the different components helped give me a better grasp of what I was learning, and which just helped me move forward. So yeah, it's balancing it out, but there's a lot of value when you can prioritize getting out there and applying what you're learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Can you dive in and tell us a little bit more about your educational background? You've mentioned your degrees and being involved in your master's program, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you chose them and how they went.
Yeah, so starting even earlier, I'm going to start off in high school because I mentioned this as part of not being involved. I was focused in on my classes, and I took some accounting classes, some business classes. I just really liked it. I liked math, And this was a practical way to be using math moving forward. So I just naturally went forward into NIU, where I got both my bachelor's and master's, and the College of Business, great business school. And yeah, this is what I know. This is what I've been exposed to as a student. So I started going down that path. As I moved further along, it's like, yeah, I like this. I don't know if I really enjoy this, if this is what I want my career path to be. But by that point, I was already, you know, senior year, questioning this. And that's where I wish being involved earlier would have helped. But I was taking a gen ed class. Those gen ed classes are so important. So this was my second to last semester, senior year, and it was Disabilities in Society. Great class. I just loved it so much. They had a guest speaker come in, talk about vocational rehabilitation counseling as a career path. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I wish I knew about this before. All right. I'm
Mm.
almost done. And it's like, oh, now I hear something that's really interesting to me. So then, just based off of timing, I took one semester off when I graduated with the business degree. It wasn't the best time to be seeking out a job. I wasn't that passionate about it. So then I did some research and kind of forced my way to get accepted early into the vocational rehabilitation counseling program at NIU. And I did the 2-year program in 2 years and a semester because I forced myself to start early, but it worked out great. No regrets. I love it.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And hey, if there's any faculty listening, there is definitely a benefit to having people come in your class, talk about different ways they can use that subject in a career path. So I like it. So why don't you then walk us through your career path? You talked about your internships and it sounds like you did a lot of talking to people. So yeah, take us through how your career unfolded.
Yeah, so I'll start off with that master's program because I was a traditional a- educational age path, right? And then I just went straight into my master's. So I was still pretty young going through all of this and just kind of going out, seeing the different aspects of rehabilitation counseling because there's so many different avenues that it could lead towards. And through these different exposures, I discovered what they refer to as the transition age. So this is the old high schoolers, those about to leave high school, and those young professionals, those that have just left high school. They're in that transition of academia to the workforce. So I told myself, this is an age I really like. I was exposed to the different other paths. Nothing wrong with them, just not quite that fit. I wanted to work with people early as they were going through this transition. And I did multiple job shadows, a few practicums to kind of test things out, and did an internship at College of DuPage working with college-based students. And I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to check out the high school transition setting. That was something that I was really exposed to in one of my practicums, and I liked it. So I was lucky enough to find a job developer position after my internship with LADSI, the LaGrange Area Department of Special Education. So I went into multiple high schools. LADSI is a special education co-op. So high schools would buy into their services and we would go support the different schools. So I went into Lyons Township High School and Riverside Brookfield High School. And I would talk about career paths, developing that career path. I worked on some curriculum to let the schools adapt, use for their different programs. So I was working with freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, and those that are in high school transition. So that if you have a disability, you can actually defer accepting your diploma and continue to receive some services, including this vocational services. So I was working with those age groups up to the age 22 through LADSI and really liked it. But going back to that COD internship, I told myself when I was done with that internship, I really liked this place. Maybe I'll come back someday. So after 4 years with LADSI, there was an opportunity with the Career Service Center at College of DuPage. And I've been here for almost 6 years now.
Wow. Very, very interesting. I like that, you kind of kept up connections and remembered, where you had done your internship. I think that's often they talk a lot about how internships can get you that first job after graduating, but I actually think those internships can help with your first few jobs. I know mine did. Working in HR, my internship definitely opened doors for me, and it sounds like it did for you too.
Well, it's all pretty well connected for me, right? So I was doing those different job shadows, going out to different places. One of those places I visited was the College of DuPage Center for Access Accommodations. So then I was able to reach out, turn that into an internship. And then when I was set to leave that internship and seek out that employment opportunity, references from College of DuPage, new people at LADSI, references from those other practicum sites, new people at LADSI. So then I had some
Hmm.
recommendations to help me go in there. And of course, I already knew people at COD when I was set to make that transition back.
There's that hidden job market again, right?
Yep.
It's essential that you reach out.
Connections,
Uh,
networking, so important.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So let's go with that a little bit more then. Can you talk about some people who have influenced you professionally?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that I can mention. I just kind of have a highlight reel. I have to start off with my grandpa as far as an influence. I've mentioned him earlier. He was a huge impact of my life. Another part of that story where my name comes from. He's not French either, but his name is Pierre. And just that influence, him having his stroke when he was 50, never returning to work, but still being able to do a lot as that professional. Like there's just a component missing for him, I could see,
Mhm.
by not returning to work. So he was a huge influence, that desire to go back. And then as I was going through my master's program, Dan Booten was a huge influence, a great guide, one of the instructors for the program, but I was able to actually work on a paper with him, present at a conference with him. We were able to do a lot and, just, very influential in helping understand that transition area as an option and kind of moving forward. And then moving forward from there, Maria Martinez, she was a site supervisor when I was with the Westchester Department of Rehabilitation Services. So she was that site supervisor, and she just had a lot of passion for work. When you think of working for the state, you think of people that are burnt out, jaded, and so upset
Mhm.
with life. Not her at all. Right? She was a great positive influence, just that passion to go and help people at the internship. And even now here at College of DuPage, a lot of people know his name, Michael Duggan. He has been a huge influence on me from that internship, being able to work with him, being able to refer back to him, seeing the passion he has to bring new programming to College of DuPage for people with disabilities and really supporting that population. Very important as I've moved forward. And at LADSI, I also want to give a shout out from Alex Bujcheski, who was a vocational counselor and, kind of supervisor for me. And again, just kind of that passion, talking about someone that works in this field and wanting to help people, but also having other interests. He would build motorcycles, right? So very realistic in his own hobbies. So those were some things that we could bond over, just like, these different interests we had outside of work, but also within work, all relating back to being able to give back and help people.
Fantastic. It takes all of us working together, and we all do better when we all do better. So I think it's always great to help others as much as hopefully you get help from other people. So fantastic. And a couple more questions. Why do you enjoy the work that you do?
So again, shout out to my grandpa, right? That's where a lot of that passion comes from. This real desire just to be helping people. You heard me mention it earlier. That social component of me, the Holland Code social, isn't necessarily about engaging with people. It's giving back and supporting people, helping people. So that's just a natural part of who I am. But also referring back to movies, I want to reference a movie that's probably not heard of, Dave. from 1993.
Oh, I liked that
Yeah,
movie. I do know that one.
it's a great movie. Ivan Reitman
It is.
directed, right? But within the movie, so I guess I'll give a little context. It's not necessarily needed, but I'll talk about the movie. This presidential impersonator, he is actually asked to sub in for the president after the president has some issues and he
A stroke or something. I
yeah,
can't remember.
yeah. I don't know how detailed I should get into the movie itself,
Yeah, well,
but he kind of realizes like, oh, I'm in power. I can be doing some things, but as the impersonator, that's his side job. His real job is to be finding people work. All right.
yes.
So within the movie, he said this line, which really relates back to why I love doing what I do. If you've ever seen the look on somebody's face the day they finally get a job, I've had some experience with this. They look like they could fly. And it's not about the paycheck. It's about respect. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing that you've done something valuable with your day. So just being able to support people, take that big step. We think about the importance of work. This is where we spend our life, right? We spend our life at work. And even though there's a lot to life outside of work, this is where we're putting a lot of time and energy. So to help people move forward in that path, it's just so meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well said, and a very good quote. I do remember that one. All right, so last question. Again, now that we're going into our winter hibernation time, is there any TV series that you're ready to binge watch? I know you like buying the DVDs. I don't know if that's your plan, but is there anything you've got that you're
Yeah.
ready to watch?
So I'm currently rewatching King of the Hill. Like I love that show.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going way back with that one. I wouldn't call him binge watching it. I'm trying to really pace myself as I go through this. Like,
Mhm.
maybe 1-2 episodes here or there, not like a huge, like I'm going to sit down and just veg on the couch. But as hibernation comes along here in the winter months, I'm going to go into the movies and I really want to do a deep dive into Frank Capra movies.
Okay.
I've seen
Okay.
a fair number of them, but he's just got so much more out there, and I just want to get through a lot.
So are you going to start at the beginning? You're going to watch chronologically?
I'm going to do my best, see what I could track down, and just kind of progress from where he started and get to the end. Yeah.
Is there a famous movie of his that we can mention for any listeners that don't know who he is?
So his most popular movie is probably It's a Wonderful Life, right? Here around the holiday season, you'll see that pop up quite a bit. That's a very popular movie. A lot of people are familiar with it, at least by name. But a movie similar to that I would strongly recommend. This is the one where it's like, oh, I love Frank Capra because of this. You Can't Take It With You. Just a great movie. And then another one that is highly regarded from that comedy side and the influences of moving comedy forward. It Happened One Night.
Oh, such a good movie. I love that one. That's a great one.
Yeah, there's
Love it.
so many classics that he has. So
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and doing this interview about your career. I think it's been great to hear about, and I think will be very helpful and educational for our listeners.
thanks for having me on this side of the mic.
Thanks to all of our listeners. We will not be answering a listener question this episode, but I want to remind everyone that if you have a question for us to answer in future episodes, you can submit those to careerpodcast@cud.edu or send them through social media at CUD Career Center. Be sure to join us for our next episode when Pierre interviews Michelle.